when a lioness shielded a lost boy from predators in the wild. The African sun beat down mercilessly on the vast savanna, its golden rays baking the parched earth and casting long shadows from the acacia trees. The air vibrated with the sounds of the wild, the chirping of insects, the rustling of leaves, and the distant roar of a lion. 10-year-old Ethan, his face streaked with dust and sweat, stumbled through the tall grass, his small body dwarfed by the immensity of the landscape. He was lost, alone, and terrified, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. He had been on a safari adventure with his parents, exploring the wonders of the African wilderness. But during a game drive, their Jeep had broken down, leaving them stranded in the heart of the savannah. While his parents were trying to fix the Jeep, Ethan, his curiosity getting the better of him, had wandered off, lured by the sight of a colorful bird flitting through the bushes. He had followed the bird deeper and deeper into the wilderness, oblivious to the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Now, hours later, he was hopelessly lost, his sense of direction completely disoriented. The sun was sinking towards the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched across the savannah like ghostly fingers. The air grew cooler, the sounds of the wild intensifying, creating an eerie symphony that sent shivers down his spine. Ethan, his throat parched, his stomach growling, felt a wave of despair wash over him. He had no idea where he was, how to find his way back to his parents, or how to survive the night in this unforgiving wilderness. He longed for the comfort of his parents' embrace, the familiarity of their voices, the security of their presence. But all he had was the vast, empty savannah, the darkening sky, and the growing fear that he would never see his loved ones again. He stumbled on, his legs aching, his feet blistered, his hope dwindling with every step. He scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of civilization, any landmark that might guide him back to safety. But all he saw was an endless expanse of grass, dotted with acacia trees and the occasional silhouette of a grazing animal. As darkness descended, casting a blanket of shadows over the savannah, Ethan's fear intensified. He knew that the night brought new dangers, predators that lurked in the darkness, unseen eyes that watched his every move. He huddled under a thorny acacia tree, its branches offering meager protection from the elements and the creatures of the night. He shivered in the cool air, his thin shirt offering little warmth. He closed his eyes, his mind filled with images of his parents, their faces etched with worry, their voices calling his name. He drifted off to sleep, his dreams haunted by the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of his fate, the desperate hope that somehow he would survive the night and find his way back to his loved ones. Ethan awoke with a start, his heart pounding in his chest. The first rays of dawn painted the savannah in hues of orange and pink, casting long shadows that danced and swayed in the morning breeze. He shivered, his body stiff and sore from the cold night, his stomach growling with hunger. He cautiously emerged from his makeshift shelter, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. The savannah was alive with the sounds of awakening wildlife, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, and the distant calls of animals. He felt a pang of loneliness, a yearning for the familiar comfort of his parents' presence. But he knew he couldn't give in to despair. He had to find his way back, to survive, to prove his resilience. He started walking, his direction guided by the rising sun, his hope renewed by the promise of a new day. He followed a game trail, hoping it would lead him to a water source, a sign of civilization, or perhaps even a ranger station. As he walked, he noticed a movement in the tall grass, a flash of golden fur that sent a shiver down his spine. He froze, his heart pounding, his eyes searching for the source of the movement. A lioness emerged from the grass, her powerful body sleek and graceful, her amber eyes fixed on Ethan with an intensity that made his breath catch in his throat. He instinctively knew that he was in danger, that this magnificent creature could easily overpower him. He backed away slowly, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Please don't hurt me." The lioness, instead of attacking, tilted her head, her eyes studying him with a curious gaze. She took a step closer, her movements deliberate, her presence both intimidating and strangely reassuring. Ethan, his fear battling with curiosity, stood his ground, his eyes locked with the lioness's. He felt a strange connection to the creature, a sense of understanding that transcended their differences. The lioness let out a soft growl, a low rumble that seemed to convey both caution and curiosity. She circled Ethan, her powerful muscles rippling beneath her golden fur, her scent filling the air with a musky aroma. Ethan, his heart pounding, remained motionless, his instincts telling him to flee, but his curiosity keeping him rooted to the spot. He watched as the lioness approached him, her head lowered, her eyes still fixed on him. She stopped a few feet away, her body tense, her tail twitching nervously. Then, to Ethan's surprise, she lay down, her chin resting on her paws, her gaze still fixed on him. Ethan, his fear slowly subsiding, took a tentative step forward. The lioness didn't move, her eyes following his every move. He took another step, and then another, until he was standing just a few feet away from her. He reached out his hand cautiously, his fingers trembling as he touched her fur. It was soft and warm, surprisingly gentle for such a powerful creature. The lioness didn't flinch, her eyes closing slightly as if enjoying the touch. Ethan, emboldened by her response, continued to stroke her fur, his fear replaced by a sense of wonder and awe. He felt a connection to this magnificent creature, a bond that transcended their differences, a shared understanding that defied the laws of nature. He sat down beside her, his back resting against her warm flank. He felt a sense of security, a feeling of protection that he hadn't experienced since being separated from his parents. The lioness, her eyes still closed, let out a soft purr, a low rumble that vibrated through her body and into Ethan's. It was a sound of contentment, of acceptance, of an unlikely bond forming between a lost boy and a wild predator. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its golden rays across the savannah. Ethan, his initial fear replaced by a sense of wonder, spent the morning observing his unexpected companion. He watched as she stretched and yawned, her powerful muscles rippling beneath her tawny fur. He marveled at her size and strength, her sharp claws and teeth, her regal presence that commanded respect. He noticed her attentiveness to the sounds of the savannah, her ears twitching, her nostrils flaring, her eyes scanning the horizon. He realized that she was not just a predator, but also a protector, a guardian of her territory, a mother to cubs that were likely hidden nearby. He felt a surge of gratitude for her tolerance of his presence, her willingness to share her space with a vulnerable human. He knew that he was in the presence of a wild animal, a creature that could easily harm him, but he also sensed her gentle nature, her maternal instincts, her acceptance of him as a harmless companion. As the morning wore on, Ethan's stomach growled with hunger. He had not eaten since the previous day, and his energy levels were dwindling. He looked at the lioness, wondering if she would share her next kill with him. He watched as she rose to her feet, her muscles coiling with anticipation. She sniffed the air, her nostrils twitching, her eyes scanning the horizon. She then set off at a brisk pace, her movements graceful and silent. Ethan, hesitant at first, decided to follow her, his curiosity outweighing his fear. He kept a safe distance, his eyes fixed on her every move, his senses alert for any signs of danger. They walked for what seemed like hours, the sun beating down on them, the savannah stretching endlessly before them. Ethan, his thirst growing, longed for a water source, his throat parched and dry. The lioness, sensing his discomfort, led him towards a watering hole, a small oasis nestled among a cluster of acacia trees. Ethan, his relief evident, rushed towards the water, kneeling down and drinking deeply from the cool, clear liquid. The lioness, her thirst quenched, lay down beside the watering hole, her eyes closed, her body relaxed. Ethan, his energy restored, sat beside her, watching as other animals approached the watering hole, their cautious movements a testament to the lioness's presence. He saw zebras, their stripes blending with the tall grass, their hooves delicately stepping towards the water. He saw giraffes, their long necks reaching towards the sky, their graceful movements a symphony of elegance. He saw elephants, their massive bodies casting long shadows, their trunks gently drawing water from the pool. He marveled at the diversity of life, the intricate balance of the ecosystem, the beauty and power of the natural world. He felt a sense of awe and wonder, a deep connection to this wild and untamed land. As the day drew to a close, the lioness rose to her feet, her eyes signaling their departure. Ethan, his heart filled with gratitude for her protection and guidance, followed her back to their resting spot. Their unlikely companionship a testament to the unexpected bonds that can form in the heart of the wilderness. As twilight descended, casting long shadows across the savannah, a sense of unease settled over Ethan. The familiar sounds of the day, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves were replaced by the eerie calls of nocturnal creatures, the rustling of unseen predators in the tall grass, and the distant whoop of a hyena. He huddled closer to the lioness, seeking comfort in her warmth and strength. She seemed to sense his fear, her body radiating a calm assurance, her eyes scanning the darkening landscape with a vigilance that reassured him. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes pierced the darkness, followed by the low growl of a leopard. The sleek predator emerged from the shadows, its spotted coat blending with the tall grass, its movements fluid and silent. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He knew that leopards were skilled hunters, their agility and stealth making them formidable predators. He instinctively reached for the lioness, his hand gripping her fur, seeking protection in her presence. The lioness, sensing the danger, rose to her feet, her muscles coiling with anticipation. She let out a low growl, a warning to the intruder, her eyes fixed on the leopard with an intensity that sent shivers down Ethan's spine. The leopard, assessing the situation, hesitated. It was a young male, its size and strength no match for the lioness. It circled them, its growls escalating into menacing snarls, its eyes gleaming with predatory hunger. The lioness, her patience wearing thin, let out a deafening roar, a sound that echoed through the savannah, sending a shockwave of fear through Ethan's body. The leopard, startled by the ferocity of her response, retreated a few steps, its aggression momentarily subdued. But the leopard was hungry, its instincts driving it to hunt, its desperation outweighing its caution. It lunged at the lioness, its claws extended, its teeth bared. The lioness, quick as lightning, met the leopard's attack with a fierce counteroffensive. She swatted at it with her powerful paws, her claws raking its fur, drawing blood. She lunged forward, her jaws snapping, her teeth grazing the leopard's neck. The leopard, realizing it was outmatched, yelped in pain and retreated, its body bearing the marks of the lioness's fury. It disappeared into the darkness, its defeat a testament to the lioness's strength and dominance. Ethan, his heart still pounding, watched the encounter with a mixture of awe and fear. He had witnessed the raw power of nature, the brutal reality of survival in the wild. He felt a surge of gratitude for the lioness's protection, her willingness to risk her own safety to defend him. He snuggled closer to her, his body trembling with adrenaline, his mind replaying the scene of the attack. He realized that he was not just a lost boy in the wilderness. He was a participant in the intricate dance of life and death, a witness to the raw power and beauty of the natural world. The lioness, sensing his fear, licked his head gently, her rough tongue offering a comforting reassurance. She lay down beside him, her warmth enveloping him, her presence a shield against the dangers of the night. Ethan, comforted by her protection, closed his eyes, his fear gradually subsiding. He listened to the sounds of the savannah, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, the distant calls of nocturnal animals. He felt a sense of peace, a connection to the wild, a trust in the lioness's unwavering guardianship. He drifted off to sleep, his dreams filled with images of the lioness, her strength and grace, her fierce protectiveness, her unexpected kindness. He knew that he was not alone in this vast wilderness, that he had found a guardian, a protector, an unlikely ally in the heart of the African savannah. The days that followed deepened the bond between Ethan and the lioness. He named her Asha, a word he remembered from a documentary about African wildlife, meaning hope in Swahili. It seemed fitting, as she had become a beacon of hope in his desperate situation. Asha, in turn, seemed to accept Ethan's presence with growing trust. She allowed him to approach her cubs, 3 playful bundles of fur, who tumbled and wrestled around their mother with carefree abandon. Ethan, captivated by their innocence, would spend hours watching them, marveling at their playful antics and their fierce loyalty to their mother. He learned to understand Asha's subtle cues, her body language, her vocalizations. He knew when she was relaxed, when she was alert, when she was hungry, and when she was feeling playful. He learned to anticipate her needs, offering her water from the watering hole, sharing his meager scraps of food, and grooming her fur with gentle strokes. Asha, in return, continued to protect him. She would stand guard while he slept, her keen senses alert for any signs of danger. She would lead him to sources of food and water, her knowledge of the savannah proving invaluable in their survival. One day, while foraging for berries, Ethan stumbled upon a beehive hidden in the hollow of a tree. Excited by the prospect of sweet honey, he reached into the hive, unaware of the danger that lurked within. A swarm of angry bees emerged, their buzzing filling the air, their stingers poised to attack. Ethan, startled and terrified, swatted at the bees, his cries of pain echoing through the forest. Asha, hearing his distress, rushed to his aid. She swatted at the bees with her powerful paws, her thick fur protecting her from their stings. She roared and snarled, her ferocity scattering the bees, her presence a shield against their attack. Ethan, his body covered in painful stings, collapsed on the ground, tears streaming down his face. Asha, her concern evident, licked his wounds gently, her rough tongue soothing the burning sensation. She then led him to a nearby stream, where she gently nudged him into the cool water. The water soothed his stings, easing the pain and inflammation. Ethan, grateful for her care, leaned against her, his body trembling with relief. This incident further solidified their bond. Ethan realized that Asha was not just a protector, but also a caregiver, a compassionate creature who looked out for his well-being. He felt a surge of love for her, a deep connection that transcended their differences. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan's hope of being rescued began to dwindle. He had no idea where he was, how far he had wandered from his parents, or if they were even still searching for him. But he refused to give in to despair. He had Asha, his protector, his companion, his friend. He had the savannah, its vastness and beauty filling him with a sense of awe and wonder. He had the will to survive, the resilience of the human spirit, the hope that one day he would be reunited with his loved ones. Life with Asha became a rhythm of survival and discovery. Ethan, guided by his instincts and Asha's wisdom, learned to navigate the challenges of the savannah. He learned to identify edible plants, to track animals for food, and to avoid dangerous predators. He discovered a resilience within himself he never knew he possessed. He faced his fears, embraced the unknown, and adapted to the harsh realities of his environment. He learned to appreciate the simple things, the warmth of the sun, the coolness of the water, the companionship of his lioness protector. Asha, in turn, seemed to learn from Ethan. She observed his human ingenuity, his ability to use tools and solve problems. She watched as he fashioned a crude spear from a sharpened branch, using it to catch fish in the watering hole. She saw him create a fire using dry grass and sticks, providing warmth and light in the darkness. She seemed to appreciate his presence, his companionship, his gentle nature. She would often nuzzle him with her head, her rough tongue licking his cheek in a gesture of affection. She would play with him, chasing him through the tall grass, her roars of playful laughter echoing through the savannah. One day, while exploring a rocky outcrop, Ethan discovered a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The cave was cool and spacious, offering shelter from the elements and a sense of security. He decided to make it their new home. He gathered soft grasses and leaves to create a makeshift bed. He collected dry wood for a fire, providing warmth and light in the darkness. He decorated the walls with drawings he made using charcoal from the fire, depicting scenes of his life with Asha, their adventures, their bond. Asha seemed to approve of their new dwelling. She would often curl up beside Ethan, her warmth comforting him in the cool nights. She would bring him gifts, a freshly killed gazelle, a honeycomb dripping with honey, a colorful feather from a rare bird. Ethan, touched by her generosity, would share his meals with her, their bond deepening with every shared experience. He felt a sense of belonging, a connection to this wild land, a kinship with the creatures that inhabited it. He learned to speak the language of the savannah, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of insects, the calls of birds and animals. He understood the rhythm of life and death, the delicate balance of the ecosystem, the interconnectedness of all living beings. He realized that he was not just a visitor in this wild land, but a part of it, a thread in the intricate tapestry of life. He had found a home, a family, a purpose in the most unexpected of places. Life with Asha had become a strange kind of normalcy for Ethan. The fear and despair of those first days had faded, replaced by a quiet acceptance of his circumstances and a growing sense of belonging in this wild, untamed world. He had learned to live off the land, to read the signs of the savannah, to anticipate the weather, and to understand the language of the animals. He had become a part of the ecosystem, a thread in the intricate tapestry of life. But the longing for his family never truly left him. He would often sit at the mouth of the cave, gazing out at the vast expanse of the savannah, imagining his parents searching for him, their faces etched with worry, their voices calling his name. He would tell Asha about his family, describing their home, their lives in the city, their love for him. Asha would listen patiently, her head tilted, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the fire. One day, while foraging for berries near a watering hole, Ethan heard a distant sound, a faint thrumming that cut through the usual symphony of the savannah. He paused, his senses alert, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and apprehension. The sound grew louder, more distinct, resolving into the unmistakable drone of an airplane engine. Ethan's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. Could this be it? Could this be the rescue he had been longing for? He raced back to the cave, his heart pounding with excitement. He grabbed Asha's mane, his voice filled with urgency. "Asha, come quickly," he shouted. "I think they've come to find me." Asha, sensing his excitement, followed him out of the cave, her powerful strides matching his frantic pace. They reached a clearing, their eyes scanning the sky, searching for the source of the sound. A small airplane circled overhead, its shadow gliding across the savannah. Ethan jumped and waved his arms, shouting at the top of his lungs, hoping to attract the pilot's attention. Asha, understanding his intentions, let out a mighty roar, her voice echoing through the savannah, a powerful signal that could not be ignored. The airplane dipped its wings, acknowledging their presence. It circled lower, its pilot peering out the window, searching for the source of the commotion. Ethan, his heart pounding with hope, continued to wave and shout, his voice hoarse with excitement. He knew this was his chance, his opportunity to be reunited with his family. The airplane made another pass, this time flying lower, its shadow engulfing Ethan and Asha. Ethan could see the pilot's face clearly now, his eyes widening in surprise at the sight of the boy and the lioness standing together in the clearing. The pilot, realizing the significance of the scene, radioed for assistance. He circled the clearing, keeping a watchful eye on Ethan and Asha until a rescue helicopter arrived. The helicopter landed nearby, its rotors kicking up dust and leaves. A team of rescuers emerged, their faces filled with concern and relief. They approached Ethan cautiously, their voices gentle and reassuring. Ethan, his eyes filled with tears of joy, rushed towards them, his arms outstretched, his voice choked with emotion. "I'm here," he shouted. "I'm here." The rescuers embraced him, their warmth and concern washing over him like a soothing balm. They checked him for injuries, their voices filled with relief at finding him unharmed. They then turned to Asha, their initial apprehension giving way to admiration. They had heard stories of lions protecting humans, but they had never witnessed such a bond firsthand. They thanked Asha for her protection, their voices filled with respect and gratitude. Asha, her mission accomplished, nuzzled Ethan one last time, her eyes conveying a silent farewell. She then turned and walked away, her majestic form disappearing into the tall grass, her roar echoing through the savannah. A final reminder of her presence, her protection, her unlikely friendship. The helicopter lifted off, carrying Ethan away from the savannah, away from Asha, away from the wildlife he had come to know. He looked out the window, his eyes scanning the landscape, a bittersweet feeling washing over him. He felt a pang of sadness at leaving Asha, his protector, his companion, his friend. He would miss her warmth, her strength, her gentle presence. He would miss the savannah, its vastness, its beauty, its untamed spirit. But he also felt a surge of joy at the prospect of being reunited with his parents, of returning to the familiar comforts of home, of sharing his incredible story with his loved ones. The helicopter landed at a nearby ranger station, where his parents were waiting, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and overwhelming joy. They rushed towards him, their arms enveloping him in a tight embrace, their tears washing away the dust and grime of his savannah adventure. Ethan, his voice choked with emotion, recounted his ordeal, his time with Asha, the lessons he had learned, the bond he had formed. His parents listened intently, their hearts filled with gratitude for his survival, their admiration for his resilience, and their awe at the extraordinary tale of his unlikely friendship with a lioness. News of Ethan's rescue and his remarkable story spread quickly, capturing the attention of the media and the public. He became a symbol of survival, courage, and the unexpected connections that can form between humans and wild animals. He shared his story with the world, his voice filled with passion and wonder, his message one of respect for nature, appreciation for its power and beauty, and a call for conservation and protection of wildlife. He returned to his normal life, but he was no longer the same boy who had wandered off into the savannah. He carried with him the lessons he had learned, the experiences he had shared with Asha, the wisdom of the wild. He saw the world with new eyes, appreciating the interconnectedness of all living beings, the delicate balance of the ecosystem, the importance of preserving the natural world for future generations. He became an advocate for wildlife conservation, dedicating his time and energy to raising awareness about the threats facing endangered species, the importance of protecting their habitats, and the need for humans to coexist peacefully with the creatures that share our planet. He never forgot Asha, his lioness protector, his savannah companion, his unlikely friend. He would often dream of her, her roars echoing through his subconscious, her presence a reminder of the wild spirit that lived within him. He knew that their bond was special, a testament to the power of connection, the resilience of the human spirit, and the unexpected friendships that can blossom in the most unlikely of circumstances. He carried her memory with him, a source of inspiration, a reminder of the wild beauty that existed within him and within the world around him.